Okay, the next application we're going to hear will be Z 1012 660 662 Amboy Avenue.
Good evening, Commissioners. Joseph Picaro, Hale & Hale, on behalf of the applicant, Clear Channel Outdoor. The application before you concerns 660-662 Amboy Avenue. The presentation involves a proposed conversion of an existing billboard to a digital billboard. Just to emphasize, this is not a new billboard, but is currently a billboard which received approvals from the city some years ago.
If someone please get to work. Just one other request, folks, please set your cell phones to off or vibrate.
Thank you. Again, this is not a new billboard. This is a conversion of an existing static billboard to new technology, which is a digital billboard by Clear Channel. The existing board did receive approvals from the city of Elizabeth some time ago. We have two witnesses this evening. We also have a representative of the Clear Channel if there's specific questions regarding the new billboard. Just why we're here for the zoning board, this is technically an expansion or a modification of an existing non-conforming use. I hesitate to use the word expansion because as you'll hear, we're actually making the billboard smaller. The conversion to digital uses smaller panels, smaller equipment than the older technology. So as a result of this conversion, the billboard panels will go from 1,040 square feet each to 672 square feet each, which we think is a significant reduction in size. So this is a modification of the existing non-conforming use. The other witnesses will speak to the technical aspects. Again, we do have a planner who will talk to the variance, the D2 variance that's necessary for the application. If there's any preliminary questions I can field those, otherwise I'd like to call the site engineer, Daniel Dockery.
Yes, I do. Daniel J. Dougherty, D-O-U-G-H-E-R-T-Y, Dynamic Engineering Consultants, 1904 Main Street, Lake Como, New Jersey.
Mr. Dougherty, for the benefit of the board and public, can you provide your education, area of expertise, licenses you hold, and any planning and zoning boards before which you appear here?
Certainly. I'm a graduate of Villanova University with a bachelor's in civil engineering. I've been practicing consulting engineering for I've been practicing civil engineering for the past 18 years. I'm a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey since 1999, and I've been accepted as an expert witness before several dozen boards throughout New Jersey. This is my first time before the Elizabeth zoning board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Dougherty, you compared the site plan that's before the board, is that correct?
That's correct.
I believe you have an exhibit. Why don't we begin by marking what you presented to the board? Is that different than something that was included in the original application package?
Technically, this is somewhat different. This is simply a color plot of the aerial plan.
It's marked as a record.
Anyone?
Please identify.
The title is Aerial Map. It's dated February 28th, 2012. The publication date of April 13th, 2012. And it is simply a color plot of the black and white version, sheet 2 of 4, contained within the plan packet that's before the board. And just for exhibit purposes, we've just got a mounted version of the billboard site plan, sheet 3 of 4. It's the same exact version as within the board's packet. The existing conditions. The existing conditions, the location is block 4, lot 40, 660 through 662 Amboy Avenue. It's located within the M2 medium industrial zone. Generally, the site's unimproved. The only real improvement on the site is the existing billboard and stanchion. It stands 160 feet tall. The purpose of this billboard at 160 feet tall is for advertising to both eastbound and westbound traffic on the westbound approach to the Gothas Bridge. The existing billboard is a two-sided flat billboard panel, and it's illuminated with floodlights during dark hours. The dimensions of the billboard, each billboard panel, are 20 foot high by 52 feet wide, for a total of 1,040 square feet. The billboard's oriented on the south side of the Gothas Bridge approach. And this sign was actually approved in conjunction with another sign that's located on the north side of the approach to the bridge. And is probably about within 200 feet of the location of this sign. They were both approved on the same application in 1994, although they are on separate lots. The existing billboard sign is actually encroaches on one of the adjacent lots. Although the monopole structure that supports the sign is entirely within the lot, the existing sign is cantilevered somewhat to the north and actually encroaches by 6.4 feet onto the adjacent lot to the north. As council had indicated, the proposed conditions in this application is to renovate the billboard with new LED panels, to remove these static panels, the flat vinyl panels that are up there now, and replace them with smaller LED panels. It's really a move towards modernization in the industry. You'll hear more about this from our planning expert, but it's really a trend in the industry for outdoor advertising. Utilizing the same monopole base as the existing sign, the panels will be installed in generally the same height as the existing ones. The new panels, however, are substantially smaller. Proposed panels are 14 foot high by 48 feet wide for a total of 672 square feet. About a 35% reduction in area, and a substantial, much of that reduction is in the height of the panel, where we're going from a 20 foot high panel into a 14 foot high panel.
Mr. Doherty, by converting to a smaller panel, will that remove the existing encroachment?
That's correct. Instead of the panels being cantilevered on both sides of the monopole, the entire panel will be slightly moved to the south, so that it's entirely cantilevered to the south and will no longer encroach on the adjacent property to the north. As we stated earlier, this is a conditional, the billboard advertising is a conditional use in this zone, and there are several conditional use criteria. The board's engineer has set forth the criteria accurately in his memo. I'll go through really the only two criteria that this application does not meet. Both of these criteria are actually existing non-conformities. The first being 2,000 foot separation to other billboards. The existing sign doesn't comply in two places. Initially, it doesn't comply with the nearby sign that was approved side by side with this billboard in 1994. So that condition will obviously be continued. And the The other location where this 2,000-foot separation is not met is with, surprisingly, a billboard that's located on the northbound lane of the turnpike. It's about 1,300 square foot away, 1,300 linear feet away from this billboard. There's really no continuity in those two locations, although they're within 2,000 feet. They're not on the same roadway. They don't share the same traffic patterns. It's really essentially two signs that might as well be a mile away rather than 1,300 feet away. The second condition use criteria is a requirement for a 500-foot separation to residential, a 500-foot separation to residential uses. One of the neighboring lots is actually a residential use and is within 500 feet. Interestingly enough, the existing sign is, when dimensioned from the actual sign panel to the property line of that residential use, is 26.7 feet. In the proposed conditions, this will actually be improved, although the sign is 160 feet in the air. From a horizontal perspective, it would be measured only 29.8 feet from the property line, improving it by approximately 3 feet. So although there's two condition use criteria that are not met by this use, they are both existing conditions, and one of which is improved from the existing conditions to the proposed, and the other remains the same. And that's a previously approved board sign that's within that separation of 2,000.
Mr. Godfrey, you've reviewed the harbor consultant's letter along with the other comment letters from the City of Elizabeth, is that correct?
That's correct.
You do not believe there are any recommendations, but whatever is in those reports, we will comply as a condition of approval?
Certainly, and I think the only comment that probably requires testimony from me is number 4, requirement for an NJDOT permit for the billboard sign, and that is something that we have received. In fact, it is on our plan cover sheet at the lower left-hand corner of the cover sheet.
Okay.
And I think that's the limit of my testimony.
I have no further questions from Mr. Godfrey.
Commissioners, any questions for this witness?
I have a question.
Commissioner Vandell.
What kind of maintenance is required for this new sign?
I'd like to defer that to our planner. Sorry. I'd like to let our planner and possibly, if necessary, our Clear Channel representative give you that testimony. It's not engineering testimony that I can provide.
But what I'm trying to get at is this old, when the existing, someone manually would have to climb that pole.
Yes.
And change the signage.
You're correct, Commissioner. The existing sign requires access to the sign itself at its height of 160 feet in order to change the advertisements periodically. Whereas the LED panel doesn't require any manual access in order to change advertisements or copy. It's all done electronically. There would be possibility of some sort of maintenance, which I can't really give testimony to, but that I can give testimony that there's no other access necessary.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions, Commissioner? Okay.
In reviewing the designs, is there any type, I didn't notice, is there any type of shielding in the bottom of the sign to minimize any impact from the resident or the homes immediately underneath the sign? Because this is going to be on ice 24/7 and there's a certain amount of brightness to it, especially for the evening and overnight hours.
Similar to typical billboard signs, there's a catwalk for access to the panel, which will provide some blockage for glare. However, the primary blockage for glare happens with the panel itself. The LEDs are laid out in rows, and in between each row is a louver that extends beyond the LED. And that helps to contain any glare in upwards or downwards direction and really maintains the LED's focus in a horizontal direction.
Okay, I see that on sheet 4.
It's actually it's within the panel itself, or the actual light grid They will be replaced with new ones. In fact, although the monopole base is being utilized, you will notice at the detail on the left side of that sheet, the top 2/3 of the pole will actually be removed and replaced with new steel structure in order to accommodate the design, structural design for the panel. It's only the bottom third of the foundation of the pole from existing conditions that will remain.
And the primary part of the ordinance is the sign is required going over about the bridge. Is that not correct?
That's right.
What would be a rough visual distance where someone coming up from the either from 19 or from the turnpike access ramp coming around? What do you anticipate the visual limit be the distance to say the turnpike and on the turnpike?
I'd like to see if maybe our planner can answer that as an expert.
Any other questions for this witness? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Doctor. Our next witness, our final witness, is our professional planner, John McDonough.
Yes, I do. Yes, my name is John McDonough. That's MC capital D-O-N O-U-G-H. My address is 101 Gibraltar Drive, Forest Plains, New Jersey.
Mr. McDonough, I know you appeared before this board, but for the benefit of the new commissioners and the public, can you provide your education, area of expertise, and licenses you hold?
Yes, my education comes from Rutgers, where I have a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Planning and Design. I'm a licensed professional planner here in the state of New Jersey. I'm also a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I hold a landscape architectural license as well. I have testified in the capacity of a planner for hundreds of boards throughout the state, including this board on multiple occasions and in New Jersey courts as well.
No.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. McDonough, you analyzed this project from a planning perspective, is that correct?
Yes, I have.
You're also familiar with the land development code of the city and the master plan?
Yes, I am.
Can you speak to the expansion of the non-conforming use, that's the variance that we're seeking this evening?
I certainly can, yes. And what's important here is that we are dealing with a billboard that is already there. And this is really just a change in technology. Billboards, as we know, started out as painted copy, moved to paper copy, and we moved to vinyl, and now along the chain of evolution, we are now dealing with the LED technology of changeable copy that's associated with a multi-message sign under this new digital technology. And this type of signage, this type of copy is becoming more commonplace. It's not as novel as it was here in New Jersey a couple of years ago. And again, we're seeing more and more of these signs throughout not only the area, but the state and the country as well. So again, it's just a continuum of the method of display for this type of medium. Again, importantly, we are dealing with a location that already has a billboard in place. Your ordinance does have certain criteria for billboards. This is not a pure use variance, but a conditional use variance, which holds a lesser standard. The application complies with most of the conditional use requirements. I believe there are 13 or so in your ordinance. And we're here for relief from 2 of those sections, which are simply existing conditions that are being improved by the application. So in all respects, from a zoning standpoint, from a display standpoint, this application represents site betterment for your community and the area at large. And what I'd like to do is just photo document for the board my findings with respect to the surrounding area, the condition of the property, and the surrounding context. And I put that together in the form of a visual exhibit that I have handout signs for all the board members.
This slide collect and mark as Exhibit A2. Sir, did you personally prepare the photographs and simulations in Exhibit A2?
I prepared them myself, yes.
And when did you take the photographs of the underlying basis of the exhibit?
Well, you will see Exhibit A2 is comprised of 3 pages. The first page is an undated photograph. It's a fairly recent vintage. I actually downloaded this from the Bing website. And what's appealing about this type of a perspective is that it gives us a view of the area from a bird's eye angle as opposed to a top-down. So we get a sense of the mass and scale of the structures in the area. And importantly, the dominant feature, as you will see, is the Goethals Bridge, which is an elevated addition at this location, and again, is certainly the dominant feature. The next set of pages will deal with ground photographs that were taken by me prior to the last hearing, which was back in June. So 6/13 is the date that's stamped on those photographs, and I actually took them myself. Okay, taking you through the pages of Exhibit A2. On the first sheet, we've outlined the property in question in yellow, which is a small open lot in what is predominantly an industrial area right there in the shadow of the Gotham's Bridge. And importantly, you can see on the property that the only structure that's there is the billboard. It's a single monopole with V-shaped panels that face the highway, not the surrounding neighborhood, not the surrounding development. We've highlighted the roadways in question, which are again predominantly industrial roadways that carry significant truck traffic and are zoned for a variety of permissive industrial type uses. This area is dominated by large scale industry and that bridge. There is some spot residential in the area that is actually non-conforming within the industrial zone. Those uses actually face the back of the sign, so they will not be looking at the illuminated portion of the sign. In particular, you can see the brick building with the white top that is facing the back of the sign by what I've labeled Amboy Avenue. Is where we have some residential units, again looking at the back of the sign, not the front of the sign. This is a sign that's oriented towards the Gotham's Bridge, and that's our primary target audience. 70,000 vehicles a day is the average daily traffic, certainly amongst the busiest roadways regionally, and where our state regulations say this type of a billboard belongs adjacent to an arterial roadway in an industrial area. And the applicant has actually procured a state permit from the DOT to locate a digital billboard at this location. State regulations are actually more voluminous than your own code, and they have a number of safety concerns associated with them. So to the extent that a permit has been issued by the state, there is a margin of consideration with respect to impact on public health, safety, and welfare built into that. So page 1 gives us a sense of the surrounding development pattern. On the next couple sheets, we look at the surrounding development condition. And frames 1 and 2 are a view into the property in question, which is just a grassy, vegetated area. We can see in the left-hand corner of frame number 1, the base of the billboard, which is really one all perceives looking at the ground level, being that the structure itself is much elevated compared to the ground level. And that becomes even more evident in frame number 3. What we're dealing with is a linear, single feature at the ground level. If one were to look up, frame number 4 is what we see. Essentially what you see in that photograph is what you get. The beauty of the new technology is that it has much less of a cast from an illumination standpoint, and at the ground level, towards council's comment, it will actually be more of a directional light toward the roadway, not a dispersed light that will cast down. And you can see in this photograph that there are actually floodlights associated with the billboard now. They would be eliminated as part of the application, and that takes away that sky glow effect that we may see with other billboards, or akin to what we see as we drive by a baseball or a football stadium with that sky glow effect. That goes away substantially with the new technology. Finally, last page, we take a look at the surrounding area. Frame number 5 shows the dominant features, certainly much more massive than what we're looking at here with the billboard, is the elevated bridge itself. To the north, we're looking at an industrial facility under the bridge, which is in the line of sight of the billboard. You can see that this facility has absolutely no windows at this particular location. It's a distribution facility, a waste management facility. Frame number 7 is the land use to the east, which is mixed in character, and again, from this vantage point, we only see the back of the sign, not the front of the sign. And then finally, frame number 8, we're looking to the land use to the west at Procco Street and Goethals Bridge. Again, the elevated nature of the bridge is the dominating feature of the area. So the key points from these photographs: billboard is established, it's there, and has coexisted with the neighborhood without detriment all this time, and the applicant is actually upgrading that with this new and improved technology. Tying that to your zone plan and your ordinance, we are in the into your zone plan and your ordinance. We are in the M2 zone, which is a permissive, economic development-oriented zone. We know it allows for a wide variety of uses, including billboards, with a number of conditions. And the two conditions that you heard from the engineer that are being deviated are the distance from residential, 29.8 feet, which is an existing condition that's actually being improved by the application as the billboard is shifting somewhat further away, and that the panel faces are being reduced in size from that which is there now. And also the distance from the billboard on the other side of the bridge, where we're 1,300 feet versus 2,000 feet, which is also an existing condition that's being improved as part of the application. Tying that then to the statutory test for a D3 variance, a D2, D3 variance, we're not looking at the use per se, whether the use belongs there in the first place, but whether these deviations create something that is overly problematic. Looking at the positive criteria, billboards certainly promote the public welfare as an effective advertising tool for commerce and trade. This is the oldest form of mass media that there is. We're on cars more than ever. More advertisers want to be built on billboards and are moving away from traditional mediums such as TV, radio, and the like. Digital billboards also provide a very important added public benefit, which is real-time messaging. Not only can we add local real-time events and advertisements, we can advertise special sales such as lotto numbers, and most importantly is the tie to the FBI Amber Alert system and the fugitive alert system, where we can have real-time messaging when we have emergency situations. And I would like to highlight that to the board in the form of yet another visual. That's a handout that just shows some of the public safety benefits that are associated with this real-time messaging.
Once marked as Exhibit 83. Sir, please authenticate the document and describe at what location these pictures were taken.
These locations were downloaded from actual websites that relate to billboards, and the locations are indicated on the base of each photograph. It's another set of 3 photographs. The first page on A3 is an example of disaster assistance, and this is a billboard down in Alabama following an F5 tornado about a year ago. And what's interesting about this particular photograph is that we see complete devastation on the ground level, but yet the only structure standing with the 1-800 FEMA number is the digital billboard. In the foreground, we see a traditional billboard where the panel has been completely ripped off. So it shows the importance, particularly dealing with the Coastal Bridge as an emergency ingress and egress from New York City to benefit the motoring public in that regard. Page 2 is an example of a fugitive alert, and page number 3 is an example of an emergency alert related to a missing person. This is all tied to the FBI network and preempts local advertising. Also, as I said before, towards the positive criteria, the procurement of an outdoor advertising permit advances state policy, and our courts have told us that advancement of state policy is also a special reason for a variance. So all of these have a tie to the municipal land use law. They also have a tie to purpose I under the land use law, which talks about a desirable visual environment. Certainly we're providing a cleaner, crisper image. And purpose M, which is the efficient use of land. Multiple messaging on one billboard is much more efficient than multiple billboards spread throughout the area. That's the positive criteria. On the negative side, visually the sign will not have a substantial impact on the area. It's going to look like a static sign. There's no rolling, there's no scrolling, there's no flashing associated with this sign. It's a still image that changes on an interval basis. We talked about the illumination and the fact that this is not downcasting light. We're actually concentrating that light in more of a directional outward manner than an upward or a downward manner. Which I heard from the engineer, there are actually louvers that are built into these individual bulbs to avoid that sky glow effect. The visibility of the sign will also